Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Pixar's Elemental. Not enough people are seeing this movie, but it has some of the best animation details and art design of any Pixar film I've ever seen, so I'm gonna break it down for some fun Easter eggs you might have missed. Full disclosure, my wife works for Pixar, and actually didn't work on this movie, but when I visited the studio, I did try to hide in the big Luxo lamp so I could live there forever, and then security had to pull me out with an apple picker. It was a whole thing, but I just want to give you my history with Pixar. Okay, let's get started. The film opens as the immigrant story many of us were pleasantly surprised to see, a light in the fog coming across the waves to Element City and embraced between Ember's parents, Bernie and Cinder. They're carrying the blue flame of their people, and Bernie's suitcase is a charcoal grill. Arriving to Element City ahead of them is a hot air balloon, the third wave of immigrants of the Cloud people, having a slightly more privileged path to citizenship. Some Cloud folks depart a blimp, a crying baby is leashed like a balloon about to float away, and then that blimp deflates to sink down to the departure level where it re-inflates and takes off. Director Peter Sohn was raised by Korean immigrants, and Bernie and Cinder's story with the discrimination they face, they're forced to change their names, they live in zone neighborhoods, they're pushed to water down their spicy food, is rooted in his family's experience and the experiences of many immigrant families. Tommy got to interview Sohn about his inspiration.
I went to this ceremony. They would ask me to do a little speech about the arts in the Bronx in New York there. I invited my parents. When I got up on stage, I saw these faces and I broke to tears just because I could see how much these folks sacrificed to give my brother and I a life.
Peter Sohn actually voiced Socks the cat in Lightyear. He was the character model for Russell in Up, and he voiced Genki Lee in Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. This Ellis Island style processing center honors the first wave, the water people, the second wave, the earth people, and the third wave, the cloud people. And beyond fire people, this movie doesn't really draw overt parallels between what race or ethnicity those elements are meant to represent. Like if they did, either earth or cloud people would have been brought over here in chains, and there would have been another element forced off their land when the water people got there. So, it's just best not to think about it that hard. As they house hunt in the Garden District, we see the metro sign has AUFE. Those are the chemical symbols of gold and iron, and later the sign for Element City reads AHAL, or A, followed by H, the hydrogen atomic number of 1, and then aluminum atomic number 13, so you get A113, the recurring animation Easter egg for the Cal Arts classroom many of these animators went through. For Firetown, the symbols are S and C, the chemical symbols of sulfur and carbon, elements associated with fire and with burning. These periodic table of elements jokes are something from Sohn's original pitch for this movie.
When I was in school in science class, when I saw that table of periodic elements, I used to make fun of it. They looked like an apartment complex to me, and all these little windows, and I would put like copper next to helium, but be careful, helium's gassy.
In the family shop, the fireplace, Bernie rings up some coal nuts while Ember practices on some stacked boxes. But over time, we see how Bernie slows down how fast he can turn that wood into charcoal. I really thought he was gonna die in this movie. I got very nervous about Bernie. Ember meets the crushing kid Claude outside, who always first appears sitting in a pot in this movie. As the metro water splashes over them, Ember uses an umbrella while Claude just soaks it in. On her deliveries, a couple's baby stroller is another charcoal grill. They feed the baby lighter fluid baby formula. Ember gets caught behind a tree-yoted log truck, and while Ember is able to speedily break her dad's delivery record, it's just a sign that she's more comfortable outside the store than inside managing the store, which only seems to trigger her anxiety, meaning that she's probably destined to leave this life. Wade Ripple flows into the flooded basement, and I just love that the first thing we see from him are his gushing tears. The flooding caused his body to take a muscular form, and Ember is into it. Elemental is truly Pixar's most romantic movie since WALL-E. Ember chases Wade on the metro, and in the darkness, she sees a glowing flame, which is revealed to be herself in the back of his head, foreshadowing that these two are destined for each other, and her light reflected through him is going to be her way through an uncertain world. When she goes in the main city, we see a sign for Eat at Ralph's 2 cents, which is a tribute to the late Pixar art director and production designer Ralph Eggleston, a mentor to Peter Sohn, who would always give his 2 cents about movies. Ember knocks into some bins marked recycling and upcycling. Those are the only 2 options here. They head into City Hall, where Wade appeals to Fern Crouchwood, voiced by the soft-spoken comedian Joe Pera. On his desk, there's a globe where most of this world is green and watercolored, but it has huge polar ice caps because abundant plant life would mean less carbon emissions and lower global temperatures, and mostly because there's not a whole lot of fire people in this world. They're all clustered in the southern continent, representing the fire homeland. And when this globe gets shoved into Wade's face, you can see that fire continent perfectly would would fit in a lake that we see within the green continent, showing that these societies really do belong each other like jigsaw puzzles, and elements do mix. And Ember also shoves Fern's name placard so that Wade's water magnifies the word ouch. Cyclone Stadium is designed to look like a giant tornado, and inside is a sign for Flagstone Tires, an Easter egg from Cars, the tire company that sponsors those racers. Also on the scoreboard, one of the scores is for passing gas. Wade gets the crowd going with a wave, encouraging the player Lutz. We love you, Lutz! Giving Gale the win she needs to recall her memories of going to these games with her dad and having some empathy for Ember and giving her a second chance. Wade tries to high-five Ember, but they're afraid to touch. As we see Wade throughout this movie, he becomes increasingly sweaty and bubbly the longer he and Ember spend time together, showing how his body chemistry is indeed changing. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Movies and TVs can be great escapism, but when it's time to face things head on, BetterHelp is here to help. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, just answer a few questions about what you're looking for from therapy and what your preferences are. BetterHelp will then match you with a therapist from their network that's right for you. After that, talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. BetterHelp gives you the same level of professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom picked for you, with scheduling flexibility and at a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/newrockstars. That's BetterHelp.com/newrockstars for 10% off your first month of therapy. When they take the hot air balloon over the city, the lights from the flaps of the tarp make a flower on the ground below, setting up Ember's ultimate wish in this movie to witness the rare Vivisteria flower. Ember says Garden Central Station flooded, so she missed her chance to see it, showing how the city has infrastructural flooding issues that they never address because they think it only negatively impacts one element group, but really it's making their whole city a problem. They just don't care. Ember joins Wade on a date to Tide and Prejudice. The posters at the theater include The Good Element, a nod to Pete Sohn's past Pixar film that he directed, The Good Dinosaur. Wade taste tests the cold nuts and nearly boils to death, but watering him down gets him banned from the shop. We dissolve from his hilarious Polaroid on the banned list to the sunset plunging into the ocean horizon, representing the contact of fire and water happening between these characters. On this beach, Ember confesses that she feels like a bad daughter, and I just love how the animators show her flames shrinking and smushing and dying out. Ember actress Leah Lewis talked about this in her interview with Tommy.
But to see it visually after they've animated it, I was like, whoa. I didn't realize how elegant she was in the way that she moves and just so swift. And then when she's angry, like she's huge. And then like when she's quite dim and really vulnerable, like she's just like, you can barely even see her fire. She's just like two little eyes.
When Ember's mother follows her to Wade's apartment, there is a boat in the canal behind them with a rocket ship on the top. This movie's Pizza Planet truck Easter egg that you actually get a better look at in concept art. Wade's mother is voiced by Catherine O'Hara, thus some of these vocalizations sounded a bit like Myra Rose David. Wade's weepy family also includes his little sibling Lake and girlfriend Ghibli, her name a reference to Japanese animation powerhouse Studio Ghibli that inspires many of the animators at Pixar. When Lake actor Kai Ava Hauser announced their casting as Pixar's first non-binary character, many responded with the sad but true clip from the other two.
Globby.
That's right. Globby will be the Haunted Buddy's first ever openly queer character.
This goo is homosexual?
The goo is homosexual.
That's incredible.
During dinner, Wade seasons his food with pepper, so hey, maybe he's growing a tolerance for more seasoning in his food. The family recalls Wade's fear of sponges, and when he gets sucked into one of these as a kid, in the background is a fire alarm, just little details showing this town's history with fire phobia. Also, there's a poster for Join the Space Club with a planet with tentacles, because Pixar puts in every movie a nod to the next coming movie, and in this case, it's a nod to Pixar's next release of Elio, a trailer for which just came out. Wade manages to win the crying game with Ember by simply professing his honest feelings for her, but when they're about to hug, they stop awkwardly, and then Wade's cousin smacks him in the butt with a pool noodle, forcing some water to bulge out his front side. And I mean, we know what that is. But then in the scene with Ember's mom, Wade uses his watery body to magnify Ember's light to ignite the incense. Just really clever story design here, showing how true love is something where both partners play a role, synthesizing something new from each other that should logically be impossible. Wade swims Ember to the underwater museum to see the Vivisteria in a bubble, and I don't care how sweet this is, this was an insanely risky thing to do, and I was terrified for her the entire time. But it is another example of how these elements mixing and working together makes the impossible possible. The Vivisteria even seems to react specifically to Ember's light, suggesting they needed her too. And Wade and Ember finally touch hands, and it's just a peaceful and relaxing simmer like a jacuzzi or a boiling pot over a stove making dinner. And I'm just amazed at how these story artists could get us so afraid of fire and water mixing just to remind us how steam and bubbling water can be one of the coziest things. It feels so right. But Ember's taken out of it by remembering her dad, and we hear this neon zzz, zzz, zzz. That sound is the sound of the fireplace sign when she snaps in and out of the moment. Wade crashes the Lumen family's reopening party, and as Ember rejects Wade, we cut to the tempered glass of the dam breaking, which causes the flash flood that, again, only affects Firetown, this district. It's a tragically common thing in low-income communities. They're often particularly vulnerable to flooding, and the rest of the city just doesn't care. Ember rushes to save the blue flame in the flooding shop. Wade arrives and he saves that flame in a lantern, but they're trapped. And where? This was their mom's romance reading room, the place where it was confirmed that they were meant for each other. Wade hugs her and he expedites his evaporation, and then we all turn into weepy water people. But Ember is able to bring Wade back by repeating that crying game bits from before. Butterfly, windshield wipers, half a butterfly, old man on his deathbed remembers the summer he fell in love, and everything's, thank God, okay. The film ends with Ember and Wade leaving so that she can go to art school, but before she steps on that boat ramp, she turns and offers her father the bakso, the big bow, the gesture of honor that his father never returned to him when he left. This is really just a sad aspect of many immigrant stories, how immigrants will leave behind parents who end up disowning them and shun them for leaving, when really those immigrants are just trying to give their own kids a better life. And that's something carried on by first and second generation kids of the immigrants. They always have to remember that sacrifice, and they're often pressured to find a way to repay that to their parents. And now Ember, realizing she is benefiting from that sacrifice, gives her father the connection that he forever longed for. And the final shot of the movie mirrors Bernie's first step off the ramp into Element City. Now, Ember takes her first step onto it. Hopefully the positive word of mouth of this movie gets more people to see it, because I loved it so much. Subscribe to New Rockstars, subscribe to The Deep Dive, and subscribe to The Break Room, and you can support our network by grabbing some merch like this Indie I Love You shirt at nerdriot.shop. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at EA Voss, follow New Rockstars, and subscribe to New Rockstars for more analysis of everything you love. Thanks for watching, bye.